Welcome to the Cheat Sheet, where we decode success for creators, professors, and business owners. I'm your host, King Musa, and today we are diving into the world of literature, storytelling, and creative expression with a focus on English and creative writing. Joining us today is Dr. Elizabeth Tasker Davis, the chair of the Department of English and Creative Writing at Stephen F. Austin State University. Dr. Davis has a wealth of experience in teaching and mentoring students in the art of storytelling, and we're excited to learn more about her journey and her role of shaping the next generation of writers. Welcome, Dr. Tasker Davis.
Thank you, Musa.
Yes, ma'am.
Great to be here.
Welcome. Quick question, right?
Sure.
It just started getting cold, outside. At nighttime, it's freezing. So when you think about fall, winter, things like that, what comes to your mind? What experiences or what comes to your mind?
Well, when you ask me about fall, the first thing that comes to my mind is growing up in New England.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Connecticut, so the fall foliage and all the different colors, the reds, the golds, the oranges in the trees and the mountains. They're not mountains like the Rocky Mountains,
Right.
but there are mountains in New England, and I liked hiking and looking at all, collecting the leaves, bringing them home,
Yes.
jumping in the leaves, raking the leaves. So everything with leaves, I guess, is what comes to mind for me.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to find out about that. Let's go ahead and get started. What is your name and what do you do here at SFA?
Well, my name is Elizabeth Tasker Davis, but I go by Dr. Tasker with the students, and my friends call me Liz. And I am the chair in the Department of English and English and Creative Writing, and I've been here at SFA for 17 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you want me to tell you about my job or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So as chair of the department, I guess I would describe it as being the public face of the department and kind of the central person that everybody would go to if they had any questions about the English and Creative Writing department.
Right.
So, the liaison with the students, but also managing up. So working with the dean's office, with other chairs in the university, with the provost's office, with the UT system, also kind of outreach to the public, maybe talking to high schools.
Yeah.
And then, we can't forget the students. So all the majors, all the minors, all the freshmen, everybody who takes freshman composition when they come to SFA, they go through the English department.
Yes,
and then we
ma'am.
also have a graduate program. So it's a broad spectrum of people that I have to deal with in the job. And it's everything from first year composition to BFA thesis readings and creative writers trying to get published to master students and secondary ed students teaching. For the secondary ed, that would be like their student teaching in high schools. For the master students, they actually TA. They're teaching assistants for us here at the English department. And, are they going to go get their PhD? Are they going to go to into the corporate world? So kind of like all of that
Yes, ma'am.
is what I do.
That's exciting. Oh, that's a lot to unpack.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a lot to unpack. But it's really, really joyful. It's a joyful position. It's busy. It's busy. I would say that one time someone asked me what was the most surprising thing, because I've only been chair for 3 years now,
Okay.
but I've been at SFA for 17 years. And they said, what was the most surprising thing that happened when you became chair? What was the thing that was the most surprising? And I said that nobody ever turns down a meeting with the chair. If I say, yeah, maybe you want to meet with me, and they're like, yes, I'm on your calendar, because they all want me to know what they need or think, or so I never rarely even get a meeting canceled, and nobody ever they never turn it down. They always want to meet. There's a lot of energy.
Okay.
People have a lot of energy, and I feed off that, I guess.
This is cool. Okay, we got to go back from the beginning before we even dive into all that.
Okay.
Where are you from? And did your parents go to college? And what got you into like English and creative writing? All of that.
Okay, so I was born in New Orleans,
Okay.
Louisiana.
Whoa.
Yeah.
The boot.
Yeah. And my dad was from Massachusetts, and he went into the Navy. And then when he got out of the Navy, the the military paid for his college, and he went to
Okay.
Tulane in New Orleans and became an architect. And he met my mother there. So that's how, they got together.
Yeah.
And so I was born in New Orleans. And once he finished school, I think he was just about done when I was born, we moved to New England. And so I grew up in Connecticut. And but always went back and forth from New England to New Orleans, New England to New Orleans growing up. And I always loved the South. Like I love the South better than any place.
Yeah.
I love the vibe of living in the South. So I knew when I went to college, I was going to come back to the South. And I went to a regional university, a lot like SFA. It was the University of Southwestern Louisiana in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Right.
And so that's about 4 hours from here. And now that university name has changed to University of Louisiana at Lafayette. So now it's called Ooh La La. That's the acronym.
Okay.
But I went there for my undergraduate, and I majored in English and I minored in Spanish. But like you, I started as a computer science major because I had a computer background. And I really do like working with computers, but I soon realized that if you're a computer scientist, you have to live, eat, and breathe computers. And I'm like, well, what do I live? Yeah, I said, well, what do I live, eat, and breathe? And it's reading and it's books. Like I've always loved reading and books. And I started from when I was a little girl. I was the kid that like joined all the book clubs at the library in the summer and read like as many things as I possibly could, as I could possibly get my hands on in a wide range of genres. But I developed a love for British literature very early on from my grandmother. So, I love, like, when I was younger, Charles Dickens. And I also loved, like, this is American, but Little Women, Louisa May Alcott, Kurt Vonnegut, when I got into high school. I mean, basically any genre that I could get my hands on. I could remember as like a third grader reading The Exorcist when, I wasn't supposed to read that, but I read it anyway. It scared the heck out of me. But I was always reading. So when I was in college, I thought, well, what should I major in? And I would always say to students, major in what you love, what your passion is, because you're going to do the best job in that. So that was English. And I was interested also in language. So I minored in Spanish. And that was wonderful. And I kind of had two areas in English that I focused on. One was British literature and the other one was technical writing because I love computers. Yeah. So when I got to be about a junior or senior, I thought, I'm not sure. I don't want to go into teaching. I'm not planning on, becoming a professor or anything like that. I didn't think I'd ever be a professor. But I thought I do want to go get my master's degree. So I looked at schools and I wanted to get my master's degree in technical writing. Right. And so my master's degree is actually an MAPW, which is a Master of Arts in Professional Writing. And the program that I went to, MAPW, Professional Writing, the program I went to was a fantastic program at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which was an amazing school to go study at. Interesting alumni. Andy Warhol was as an alumni. Natalie Merchant from 10,000 Maniacs, the singing group. That's probably way before your time. But anyway, a lot of famous people, and Pulitzer Prize winner in robotics, Herb Simon. So it was a tech school and a fine arts school. And anyway, I went there for professional writing. And while I was getting my master's degree, part of it was that I needed to do an internship. And so this company sent representatives to town, and the company was called Microsoft. Okay. And so I had never heard of, I had heard of Microsoft because this was in like 1989. But I didn't know much about them. Okay. And so anyway, I got in the next couple of weeks, I got a call and I had an internship at Microsoft out in Seattle, in Redmond, actually, right outside of Seattle. So I flew out there on a plane with my dog. They had thousands of interns at Microsoft, and they put us all up in apartment complexes right next to the Microsoft campus. Okay. And they let me bring my dog, which was pretty cool. But anyway, flew out there, did the internship for the summer, and then they hired me to do like some contract work when I went back to finish my master's degree. So the master's degree in professional writing was very transformative for me. Right. And when I finished that, I had a couple of different job offers, and one of them was in Texas with a company called Convex Computing in, I think it was Dallas-Fort Worth area. which I didn't take that job.
Yeah, we're back to computers.
Yes, I took another job, and it was for a company called Hyperion in Connecticut, and it was financial accounting software. So who would think it, from literature to that? But I had the computer background, and I loved working as a technical writer in the software industry because it was like being in college forever. Like big project teams. Projects went for everywhere from 2 months to 2 years. You had programmers, you had writers, you had artists, graphic designers, software testers, and we would all be working on these projects. So I worked there for 12 years, and I just loved it. But then I started, by that time I was married, and I had started having children, and I thought, well, maybe I want to stay home a little bit more. Maybe I want to work part-time. And so the company was such a great company. Was very successful. It was during the tech boom. And I guess I should say that there were a lot of perks there. Right. And when we had a good year, which was every year, they would take us on company trips to the Bahamas or Bermuda. And it was just really, fun. We had a great, and it was all young people. So it was working for Microsoft and working for Hyperion. That was just a great thing. But I decided that I wanted to cut back. And so and my husband at the time was transferred to Atlanta, Georgia. He worked for UPS. So I worked at home for a while and worked as a proposal writer. So I was one of the probably earliest telecommuters because that was in mid-1990s. I was telecommuting, and then I decided, I think I'm going to go back and get my PhD. Okay. And so I went to Georgia State University, and that's where I kind of made the transition back then out of the technical aspects of writing and more into literature and studied both rhetoric and composition, but also British literature. And I fell in love with the 18th century, and so that's what I teach now is mostly classes on 18th century British literature.
Okay. So 2 quick questions.
Sure.
As I'm recapping in my head. One, when you say New England, you mean like in Britain and everything, right? Like I'm not.
New England is Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, not Old England, New England, New England. Like the New England Patriots, is the football team.
I've never understood that, but now, I'm with you now. I was just thrown off, like what? And then the British literature was going to be the second part. Where did that interest come from? And then I also got to know, did your parents go to college?
Oh, yes. I did mention my dad went to Tulane for architecture. So he got his degree in architecture, and he had a great career as an architect. My mother, I don't think my mother went to college, but she taught college. So that's pretty funny. She was a tennis pro and an athlete. She coached college tennis in Connecticut. And she also taught exercise classes, and she taught cooking. She was very, very active. But no, she didn't go to college.
Yes, ma'am.
But my dad did go to college, and it was for architecture at Tulane.
Okay.
And British literature, my grandmother on my mother's side and my grandfather on my father's side both had collections of different authors. And, my grandmother had poets and like Robert Burns and great English poets like William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge and Shakespeare. So I would read that. Okay. And then my grandfather, he had the full collection of all Charles Dickens novels. And there's something about England. So you ask about Old England. I've been there several times, and there's something about British literature and British culture that I'm just really, really crazy about. And I'm not alone, because you think about all the people that love Jane Austen and love British crime shows on television, and all the British cinema, and all the British actors. So yes, I'm part of that British kind of scene. I love all that art that comes out in the culture that comes out of England, Scotland, and Ireland. So.
Yes, ma'am. So you say you read a lot, so I'm gonna bring this back. The book Fahrenheit 451, right?
Yes.
No more books. If you could not read anymore, or what do you like to do outside of writing? What are your interests, hobbies, and passions? But just like imagine, like no more books.
If there was no more books, what would I do?
Yeah.
I'd probably just walk around. Yeah, because I like walking a lot too. I'd walk around, and I love nature and animals. I love being outside. So I'd just be walking around outside and then coming in to cook nice meals, maybe listening to music.
Right.
That's what I'd be doing.
Okay. Let's go ahead and dive into what it's like being the chair. So what would you say is the vision of the chair? Because you have a lot to manage, juggle, prepare for, and just handle. That's why it's your job. Yeah, and she does it well. So what is the vision, and how do you get all those things organized and running?
Well, I am a very visual person, so I like to have a vision. I do have a vision. I had it coming in when I applied for this job, and I explained it during the interview process, and I bring it up every year with my faculty. So picture a triangle.
Okay.
That's my vision. It's a triangle. The bottom of the triangle is communication and shared governance, because you need to have that communication among the faculty and the students. There needs to be good relationships. And when I say shared governance, all the faculty members need to have a voice in the department, and we need to share responsibilities, because the chair is only one person and can't do everything. So there's a lot of delegation, and there's a lot of collaboration. So that's the bottom of the triangle. The second level up is signature events.
Okay.
So of course, all of the courses we teach are, baked into the schedule every semester. So those are signatures, obviously. But also we have signature events such as Piney Dark Horror Writing Contest, which is about to come up on October 30th. Will be the reading of all the horror submissions, and different horror stories, horror poems, everything. So that's an example of a signature event. We have the literary awards every year. We have BFA readings, so all the undergraduate students that are doing the Bachelor of Fine Arts, and also the grad students that are on the creative writing focus. Every fall and every spring, those that are graduating do public readings. We have visiting writers who come in. We have a banned books reading in the fall. We have the literary awards in the spring. We have a distinguished visiting writer. So these are all of our signature events. And I've seen this being in this department for many years. And I thought I always had these ideas. If I ever became chair, what would I do? Well, I'll celebrate the signature events. So we do a lot of posters. We try to do publicity. I will say that by nature, most English professors are in English majors. A lot of us are introverts.
Right.
So PR and publicity and marketing, we struggle with that a little bit. We do it. We can make the posters, but we definitely aren't like out, shaking hands as much as other types of people.
We got you.
Yeah.
We got you.
Yeah. So maybe it's good that I'm here. But signature events are the second layer of the triangle. And then on top of signature events, we have research and we have community outreach. Okay. So faculty especially, but also students, grad students, they need to be doing their research. They need to be, whether their subject matter is, medieval, literature, or it's researching in their next novel, or it's, how does AI fit into the composition classroom, whatever your area of research is. I, as a chair, want to promote the research of the faculty, and the dean also in our college, and the provost and the president and the university as a whole is all about research. So that's a very important component. And then also community outreach, like you were talking before we went on air about the growth in Nacogdoches, and now that we've joined the UT system, and you just interviewed the mayor, and what can we do with the community, and how do we get out there and interact with the community. So that's part of the vision. And then the top triangle. So if you've got, communication and shared governance, you've got signature events, you've got research and community outreach. And the top is growth and development. So that's my vision.
Okay.
Can you see the triangle?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Good.
A complete visionary. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I like it. Does everybody get excited when they hear it? When they kind of get to know, understand, and see, because it seems practical. You have other people's vision who is grandiose and everything, and you're just like, okay, how? But on this one, no, it's
concrete.
Right.
Yeah. I think there may be things in the world that are more exciting than that vision, but I think it's what the excitement is, that it is concrete and it's attainable and it's doable. And looking at that vision every year and saying, okay, here we are. This is where we're excelling on this vision, and this is where we need work. It makes it's motivating, I guess
Yeah.
I would say. It's motivating because what you're supposed to be doing, and and each person in the department can see how what they do plugs into the vision.
Right.
So I think it's comforting.
Yes, ma'am. So you said a part that actually brought me to my next question. If I became a chair, you gave me the rundown how we got to our PhD and everything. How did you get to SFA? And then when you got to SFA, how did you get to become a chair? 'Cause you said you've only been a chair for 3 years.
3 years, yes. Okay.
Let's hear it.
So how did I get to SFA? When I was finishing, I did my PhD, like I said, after I'd been working in the software industry for 12 years. So I didn't start working on my PhD till I was 39 years old and 11 months.
Okay.
So just right before I turned 40.
Yeah.
And so it was a second career for me. And I did my PhD at Georgia State. I don't know if I mentioned that, in Atlanta, Georgia, downtown Atlanta. And then I went on the job market. And basically anybody who's getting their PhD and that wants to stay in higher education, the goal is called tenure track job, right?
Right.
Tenure track job. So that was the goal. And I was very fortunate. I had a couple interviews for tenure track positions, and one of them was here. And I had never heard of Nacogdoches before that. I got
Everybody in the world. Yep.
got on a plane, flew into Houston, rented a car, driving north on 59. I'm like, where is this place? What is this place? And when I got to the town, I was actually very charmed. I stayed down at the Fredonia Hotel, which I would highly recommend. SFA put all of their candidates up at the Fredonia because it's a beautiful little hotel there, and it's the center of town. You get to see the downtown. So that made a really good impression on me. And so anyway, I came in as a specialist in 18th century British literature and secondary area rhetoric and composition. And I started in 2007. So that's how I got here.
Yes, ma'am. And did you just go straight into becoming a chair, or?
No.
Right.
I started as assistant professor, and a lot of what I taught when I first came was the freshman writing. And so I was an assistant professor. Usually people will be an assistant professor for about 5 years.
Right.
So after the first year of being the assistant professor, I was still an assistant professor, but I was asked to be the writing program coordinator for first year writing. So part of the job was overseeing all the sections of freshman writing, 1301 and 1302, and helping, kind of unify and keep everybody who's teaching those courses kind of on the same page.
Right.
Like they all have some, it's important in English, which is different than other disciplines, to let the teachers have autonomy in the way that they teach the subject matter and the stories they read and everything, because they have to have passion. There's got to be consistency, but the teacher needs to have their own voice, just like a writer does. So we don't want every single section to be exactly the same. We want to cover the same skills, but we want to say, if you were going to come in and teach freshman writing, you would bring certain interests and expertise to the table. And it's the best is to let the instructor's interests and expertise kind of blend in and inform. So anyway, I did that for, I guess, about 4 years. And then I really wanted to just be not, there was a lot of management involved with that, managing the different people teaching, the faculty members that were teaching the freshman classes. And I had been a manager at the software company right before I left. And I didn't want to be a manager at that time in my life because my children were young and I just wanted to teach. So I stepped out of that role and I was an assistant professor and, published in British literature, did a lot of, conferences and research in that area. And then eventually, was promoted to associate professor. And I, kind of stayed in my own kind of quiet corner doing the British Lit thing. Then finally, I was asked to be the graduate coordinator, of the graduate program for English. And so I said yes to that. And that was really interesting. And I liked that a lot, helping the graduate students, professionalize and figure out, where are they going? Are they going to go into, corporate world? Are they going to go on and get PhDs? So a lot of advising and mentoring that went with that I liked a lot. So, I was first year writing coordinator, then I was graduate coordinator. And by this time I'm a full professor, because you go up through the ranks. And then we had an interim chair for about 3 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And they decided to do the chair search, and it was an internal search.
Okay.
So, we didn't have external candidates. But anyway, I thought it was suggested to me, I'll put it that way,
Yeah.
that I should apply. And I thought, okay, I will. And so my first thing when I decided to apply was, what's my vision? And I already described that to you. So I had a very clear vision of what I thought the chair should be doing. I'd been here for, 14 years or 15 years by the time I was chair. So I knew SFA, I knew the department. And also, I guess I should say, something that really informs my management style and my scholarship is feminism. And so I wanted to come at this job from a feminist perspective. So that was really motivating for me.
Yes, ma'am. So just kind of seeing that you got the experience of being in the department, you got to see the things that needed to be, highlighted, and that fed into your vision, because of being in the department. I do want to ask you, when seeing the position of chair, and now being in it, the day-to-day, the semester to semester, what are some of the daily and yearly challenges or semesterly challenges?
Okay, so the biggest challenge for the English department, and I think a lot of departments at SFA, is how to cover all the classes with, a finite amount of resources, meaning that we don't have enough people a lot of times. And so we sometimes have to, we do always have a pool of adjunct instructors. So scheduling and covering classes are a challenge that happens every semester, and it's a big challenge. And I knew that was going to be a challenge. I'd seen other chairs, do it. And, every semester the schedule comes out. Before the students get to see the schedule, the faculty see it, and there's always like, okay, what am I teaching and what times? And the students are, well, what's being offered? So that's kind of like a cycle of challenge, the same challenge that keeps happening. Other challenges, I feel strongly that it's my responsibility to understand what each and every faculty member and staff member wants out of their career, and what what their next big thing is, what they're excited about, what they're struggling with. So I think it's the chair's responsibility to stay in very good communication with the faculty. So something that I added to the job is every fall I do one-on-ones with everybody in the department, regardless of rank, and just sit down with them and talk to them about, teaching, research, service, their goals. So that's something that's kind of part of the job. But the funny thing about being chair is you don't know from day to day how busy it's going to be.
Right.
Some days you could just be sitting there doing your research or doing, some project that you have to do. And other days it's like the house is on fire. So, and the phone's ringing off the hook and people are coming in and there's like, we need this now, or, this thing is happening, or you've got back-to-back meetings. So it's very diverse and it's exciting in that way.
Okay. And she even took the time to come do this interview. I really appreciate you.
Oh,
yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Now, I want to know, and I guess students, this is for students and faculty, what are some exciting things going on in the Department of English and Creative Writing?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Well, I think October 30th is coming right around the corner, and I think everyone should come out to the Piney Dark Horror Writing Contest. It's going to be at the Baker Patillo Student Center in the movie theater. And so people will be reading their original scary poems, scary stories, and there'll be candy and probably popcorn, stuff like that. So we do a lot of public events. Those are exciting things. There is a really great another thing we did this fall was the banned books reading, and that's a national event that schools do. A lot of different schools do, high schools and colleges, where students and faculty and different people will read excerpts from books that have been banned for one reason or another over the time for the past from today to like say 200 years ago, 300 years ago. And it's important, we feel, in our profession to let voices and authors be heard and discuss why works are banned and why, perhaps that was a mistake and they shouldn't be banned. So that's a fun event. Another really great event we have is called Words of Art, and it happens in the spring. And that's a collaboration between the Subplots, which is the Creative Writing Club. And by the way, anybody can join Subplots. You don't need to be an English or creative writing major. If you're interested in creative writing, you can join Subplots. And I'm not a big Twitter person, or I guess it's called X now, but it's on. There's a, I don't know where I put it. At Subplots SFA is their handle, or what do you call it? Whatever you call it. Social media, you know what you call those things. But anyways, Words of Art is a collaboration between Subplots, which is the Creative Writing Club, and the Art Club. And what it is this, they put together artists, visual artists and textual artists, writers. So maybe you write a poem and then I read your poem and I make a painting about that poem. Or maybe somebody else writes a story and then the artist will make a sculpture about the story. So it's pairing, a story or a poem or some kind of textual work with some kind of visual work, whether it's a photograph, a sculpture, a painting. And then they create, I don't know if there's a selection process. I don't know exactly how it all works, but they create this beautiful book that they publish, and then they have an event where all the artwork, the visual artwork and the textual artwork are displayed next to each other, and it's usually in the art building. And usually we get 100+ turnout, and the provost will be there, and the dean and the community, and it's a really beautiful event. And that happens in the spring. So if you love art, if you love poetry, literature, stories, that's a good one. It's called Words of Art.
Yes, ma'am. I like it. I do want to know if you are, for those who are students in creative writing in English, if you are a person who love art and you are a person who love writing and everything, what advice would you give students who are, it's around midterms right now, I wouldn't say struggling, but you're in the middle of the semester. What are some keys to success, through the semesters and becoming a creative writer or professional writer?
Okay, so we produce creative writers, professional writers, and also scholars, literary scholars. The obvious one for any profession, right, is time management. So not procrastinating, and I hate to, that sounds so like an old school marm or your mother or father, but that's really, really important, is to make sure that you make time for your reading and your writing, because creativity doesn't creative works don't spring full grown from your head like Athena did from Zeus's skull, in Greek mythology. It takes craft, it takes revision, it takes time for things to percolate and simmer and all that. Another thing that I would say, whether you're studying literature, from an analysis perspective, or writing, is detail, or doing your own original writing, is detail.
Okay.
The detail is so important, and a lot of times I'll see students kind of, I can't write that much, I can't write that long, and what they've written is very bare bones. But if you go into the middle of what you're writing and you start expanding it, well, why is that? Why did that happen? What did that look like? What was that person thinking? What does this compare to? Just kind of layering in detail. And I say for literary analysis, how do you know when you're done analyzing a piece of literature? It's like when you feel like you've done it to death, like there's nothing left to say. That's probably when you're done. I'm not a creative writer myself. I'm more of a professional, like a technical writer or analytic writer, literary scholar. But just really working on detail. And the other thing I would say is a community. So I think this is important for any kind of writers, is to have a community of other people that are doing what you're doing, so that you can bounce ideas off of them. And even joining a writing group is really a good thing.
Yes, ma'am. And then for my final questions, if you never thought you was a writer, never seen, or you had interest in it, but you never pursued it, right? What are the professions of professional writers, creative writers, and scholarly writers? What might pique somebody's interest or draw them, towards it?
So what professions can people do? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, teaching is a big one. A lot of people that are creative writers, they know they want to be a creative writer. They hope they'll write the next great novel, or they love writing poetry. So how can they do that? they need time to do that.
Right.
And so teaching, it keeps your head in the game, and it keeps you like dealing with the kinds of tasks like teaching other people how to write. And
Right.
so that's very attractive. Like now, there might be somebody who becomes a great poet and they're an insurance salesman. Yeah, that can happen, certainly. But if you're in the business, then, so teaching is a great avenue, whether it's teaching, middle school, high school, college, that's a big area that people in our profession go into. But like me, I had a background in writing, and I worked for a software company.
Right.
And, I know people that have worked for like writing, marketing material and catalogs, or, working for, news organization writing sports news,
Yeah.
so there is crossover with journalism, certainly, but there's also a lot of writing that happens in business. So, and then think about the entertainment industry and
Right.
storytelling. Any profession that requires storytelling is a big area for English majors and creative writing majors, and the entertainment industry is a prime example, the gaming, all these, series that are coming out, the film industry, all
Right.
of that, there's writing involved. And then in terms of the analytical side, a lot of English majors go on to law school. So those are some of the things. I think that the need for writing and the need for storytelling is very great in our culture. And, I know the STEM professions, are and the business professions seem like a more obvious
Yeah.
career path, but there are certainly a lot of jobs for those in the humanities. And I think the research has shown that people that have degrees from the humanities, they may start a little bit lower in their salaries, but they just, come up and they continue and they get right where they should be.
Right.
So,
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
all right. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
It was great to be here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dr. Elizabeth Tasker Davis, for joining us today and sharing your wisdom and experience. It's inspiring to learn about the importance of storytelling and creativity in education and how students can tap into their potential. To all our listeners, remember, subscribe to the Cheat Sheet and follow us on social media and stay connected. This is King Musa signing off, reminding you to keep writing, keep imagining, and keep telling your story. Y'all have a great day.